I raised her for 10 years, then she banned me from graduation for her deadbeat dad. I've been lurking here for years. Never thought I'd actually post anything, but I've been sitting on this story for a while now, and I guess it's time to share. Let me just say up front, I learned the hard way what happens when you give everything to people who only see you as a backup plan. This isn't one of those dramatic movie-type stories. It's just real life. Messy, and maybe a little satisfying in the end. If you told me 10 years ago that Daniel, 41 years old, would end up basically raising someone else's kid while her real dad played superhero twice a year, I would have laughed in your face. But that's exactly what happened. Jenna and I got together a little over a decade ago, and her daughter Mia was around 12 then. She was this tiny kid, all smiles and messy hair, and she called me Uncle Dan at first because she didn't know what else to call me. I didn't mind that at all. I wasn't trying to step into the dad role overnight or force anything. I just wanted to be there for both of them, make life a little easier. And for a while, it actually worked out really well. Things were good, like genuinely good. Mia was a sweet kid, the type who'd make you a crooked Father's Day card with your name spelled wrong, but you'd still stick it on the fridge like it was some kind of trophy. She'd run to the door when I got home from work, hug me around the waist, and start talking 100 miles an hour about whatever happened at school that day. I used to help her with her homework at the dining table while Jenna cooked dinner. It actually felt like we were a normal little family. No drama, no complications, no nonsense. But there was always Brian in the background, the real dad. He'd show up maybe once a year, sometimes twice if we were lucky, usually with some cheap gift and that fake, "I miss you so much, sweetheart," energy that kids fall for every single time. He had this way of making an entrance like he was a celebrity dropping by to visit his fans. Mia would light up every time he showed up, and I'd just step aside and let them have their moment. I didn't compete with him. I figured kids should have both parents in their lives if possible, even if one of them was allergic to actual responsibility. Brian would promise her trips and dinners and father-daughter weekends that never actually happened. Then I'd be the one picking up the pieces when she got disappointed again. But no matter how many times that pattern repeated itself, Brian was still the fun dad in her eyes. And I was just the guy who made sure the bills were paid and her lunchbox had food in it every morning. I didn't complain about it, though. I told myself this was what being an adult looked like. Doing the right thing even when nobody claps for you. The years rolled by. Mia turned into this smart kid, top of her class, always reading or arguing passionately about something. She wanted to study law. She said she wanted to make a difference in the world, which I thought was kind of funny because she couldn't even make her bed half the time. But still, I was proud of her. When she got accepted into college, it felt like a win for all of us. Like all those years of homework, help, and encouragement had actually paid off. Now, let me be completely real with you. College is expensive. Really expensive. Mia didn't get a full scholarship or anything close to it. And Jenna hadn't worked in years at that point. So guess who funded everything? Yeah, that would be me. I handled it all. Tuition, textbooks, dorm fees, meal plans, everything. Every single time I made a payment, Jenna would tell me, "We'll pay you back someday." Like it was this movie promise that sounded nice, but everyone knew would never actually happen. It never really bothered me that much, though, because I saw it as an investment in Mia's future. I didn't have kids of my own and medically couldn't, so helping her build a life kind of gave me a sense of purpose. For a while, everything stayed pretty normal. Mia would come home for breaks, give me quick hugs, and update me on her classes. She'd talk about professors she liked, how tough her exams were, how she was making new friends at school. She was still polite, still thankful, still my kid, even if not by blood. That's what I thought anyway. But then something shifted. It started small at first. Missed calls that went unreturned. Short replies to my texts. Fewer visits home during breaks. Jenna kept brushing it off, saying Mia was just busy with her studies and adjusting to college life. I didn't think much of it initially because college life is hectic, right? Everyone's stressed and overwhelmed. Still, I stayed proud of her. She was almost done with school after all these years. After working extra hours, skipping vacations, tightening our budget for years, we were so close to seeing her walk across that stage with a law degree. Man, I was ready for that day. I've been picturing it in my head for months. Sitting in that audience, maybe tearing up a little when they called her name. Not that I'd ever admit that out loud. I even imagined her thanking me afterwards, maybe with that old smile she used to have when she was a kid, the one that said, "Thanks, Dad," without actually saying the words. Jenna and I talked about the graduation plans all the time. I told her I want to take Mia out to dinner after the ceremony, somewhere nice to celebrate. She nodded and said it was a great idea. We even looked at restaurant options together, made tentative reservations at a couple places. It felt good, like everything had come full circle after all those years of struggle. Looking back now, that was probably the last time things felt normal between all of us. Back then, though, I was just a proud idiot who thought his years of loyalty and hard work actually meant something to them. I was counting down the months until graduation, telling myself this was the finish line. The day when all those years of effort and sacrifice would finally feel worth it. And man, if only I'd known how wrong I was about everything. Mia's university goes all out for graduation ceremonies. I'm talking red carpets, banners everywhere, professional photographers, the whole leaders of tomorrow's speech thing. They even have this short segment during the ceremony where a few selected students get to thank their families publicly. It's like a mini speech moment they submit in advance for approval. I've been waiting for that day for so long. Finally, all those late nights working overtime, all those bills, all those sacrifices. It was going to mean something tangible. The first weird sign that something was off came one night when I casually asked Mia how her graduation prep was going. She was sitting on the couch with her laptop, typing away, barely even glanced up at me. "It's fine," she said. Short and dry, no emotion behind it. I try to joke around, lighten the mood. "Fine? That's all you've got? I've been waiting 10 years for this, and all I get is fine?" She gave me this half smile that didn't reach her eyes at all and said, "You're overhyping it, Dan. It's just a ceremony." That sentence stuck with me for days afterwards. Just a ceremony. I tried to laugh it off in a moment, but it felt like she just stomped on something I'd been building up to for a decade. This was the same girl who used to run up to me with her report cards saying, "Look, I did it, Dad." Suddenly, she couldn't care less about her own graduation. Over the next few weeks, she got progressively colder toward me. Every time I'd mention graduation, she'd change the subject or give one-word answers. "How's the speech coming along?" I asked her once, genuinely curious. She just shrugged without looking up from her phone. "Haven't decided what to say yet." No smile, no excitement, nothing. Just this wall of indifference. Jenna noticed the change too, but every single time I brought it up, she had an excuse ready. "She's just stressed out," she'd say dismissively. "Law finals are incredibly hard. You know how it is." Or, "She's grown up now, Dan. You have to let her handle things her own way." But then I started noticing other things that didn't sit right. Whispered phone calls that would stop the moment I walked into a room. Doors closing when I passed by in the hallway. These little silences between Jenna and Mia that used to never exist before. One evening, I came home early from work, maybe an hour earlier than usual, and I caught them mid-conversation at the kitchen table. The second they saw me walk through the door, they went completely quiet. Mia immediately picked up her phone and started scrolling through it like she'd been doing that the whole time. Jenna suddenly became very interested in stirring her coffee, even though there was nothing in it that needed stirring. That's when I knew for certain something was wrong. Something was being planned behind my back. Still, I didn't want to jump to conclusions or start an argument over what might be nothing. I told myself I was just being paranoid, reading too much into normal behavior. Maybe I was just anxious about the graduation and projecting that onto them. A week later, Mia's university sent out an email notice about guest passes for the graduation ceremony. Every graduating student gets to list 2 people who will be seated in the special reserved section right up front. I figured it would be a good chance to double-check our travel details and make sure everything was coordinated. So I clicked the link to review the information. I stared at the screen for a solid minute before it even fully registered in my brain what I was looking at. Listed guests: Jenna Smith, mother; Brian Turner, father; no den añuera. No stepdad mentioned. Not even a typo or formatting error. Just completely erased from the entire thing. I actually refreshed the page like an idiot, thinking maybe there was some kind of technical glitch with the website. Nope. Same exact thing showed up. My name was nowhere to be found on that list. I sat there at my desk for a while just staring at it, not even sure how to process what I was seeing. Then I actually laughed out loud. Not because anything was funny, but because of how pathetic the whole situation looked from the outside. 10 years of sacrifice, 10 years of being there every single day, and in the end, I didn't even make the seating chart for her graduation. When Jenna got home that evening, I didn't yell or make a scene. I waited until we were sitting down for dinner. Then I calmly slid my phone across the table with the guest list still open on the screen and asked, "Want to explain this to me?" She barely even blinked. "Oh, that. Mia wanted her real father to be there for graduation. It's her day, Dan. Don't try to make it about you." That line hit me harder than I expected. Not because of what she actually said, but because of how casual she was about the whole thing. Like I'd been some sort of long-term babysitter and my contract had just expired. Like those 10 years meant absolutely nothing. Her real father, I repeated slowly. "You mean the guy who shows up every other year and can't even remember what she's studying?" Jenna sighed. It was that particular kind of sigh people use when they think they're being incredibly patient with a difficult child. Please don't do this right now. You've been great to her, really. But it's completely normal for her to want her biological dad at her graduation ceremony. I just sat there, suddenly feeling very calm and very cold at the same time. My brain went from angry to calculating in about 2 seconds flat. Because here's the thing about me that most people don't realize. I don't explode when I'm hurt. I plan. I strategize. I think through every angle. That night, I didn't argue anymore with her. I just said, sure, it's her day. And that was it. No fighting, no raised voices, nothing. Jenna actually looked relieved, like she'd just dodged a major bullet and couldn't believe how easy that had been. The next morning, I woke up early, made my coffee, and opened my laptop with a very specific purpose in mind. I decided to see what else they were planning that I apparently wasn't invited to participate in. And guess what I found plastered all over social media? Mia had posted new photos from the university. She and Brian standing side by side on campus, both of them with these huge smiles. The caption read, "So lucky to have the best dad ever. Couldn't have done it without you." It was almost funny in a dark way, how fast my stomach dropped reading that. Not from sadness really, just complete disbelief. I had literally paid for that best dad ever photo opportunity. I bought the outfit she was wearing in that picture. The tuition that allowed her to be standing on that campus. The housing, the food, everything. I had literally built the entire moment she was now using to publicly pretend I didn't exist in her life. Jenna must have known I'd see that post eventually. Maybe she thought I'd just swallow it like I'd swallowed everything else over the years. Keep quiet, keep paying, keep being the reliable backup. But that post told me everything I needed to know about how they really saw me. They wanted Brian to look like the hero of this story. They wanted me to fade quietly into the background like I'd never been there at all. And they genuinely thought I'd just let it happen without consequences. Not this time. Not anymore. I closed the laptop, finished my coffee slowly, and leaned back in my chair. For 10 solid years, I'd been paying for everyone else's comfort and happiness. Now, I was going to start paying for my own peace of mind instead. If they could erase me publicly from their lives like I meant nothing, then fine. I'd erase my name from that tuition payment portal next. And that, I decided right then and there, would be the very last payment I ever made for either of them. The next morning, I woke up feeling genuinely calm for the first time in weeks. Not the fake kind of calm you force before a confrontation, but real calm. Like a massive weight had finally been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't slam any doors or make dramatic announcements. I just made my coffee, sat down at my desk, and opened my laptop with a clear purpose. The university payment portal was already bookmarked in my browser. Old habit from years of logging in monthly to make sure everything was properly covered. But this time I logged in with a completely different goal in mind. The numbers popped up on the screen showing the payment schedule. Just 2 payments left until her degree was complete. Both currently unpaid and waiting for my credit card information. I stared at that total amount for a minute, let out a small laugh, and clicked Cancel Automatic Payments. The system asked me to confirm twice, like it couldn't quite believe I was serious about this. I confirmed both times without hesitation. Then I sent a brief, professional email to the university finance office, politely stating that I would no longer be responsible for any future tuition payments for this student. Short and direct. No long explanations or emotional justifications. It felt surprisingly good, like finally canceling a long, expensive subscription service that had never actually brought me any joy or value. Next, I opened up my banking app on my phone. Years and years of transaction history told the exact same story over and over. Groceries, car repairs, insurance payments, utility bills. Everything running through my accounts. I started methodically redirecting all of it. Removed my credit card from the joint grocery delivery account. Changed every single recurring payment that had the word household attached to it. I even opened up a completely new savings account and transferred all the money I'd been setting aside for Mia's final semester into it. Labeled it Freedom Fund, right there in the account name. By the time I finished reorganizing everything, the silence in the house felt different. Cleaner somehow. I hadn't even realized how loud it had been all these years, living with 2 people who constantly drained me, financially and emotionally. That evening, Jenna came home from wherever she'd been, carrying bags of groceries like always. She went to pay at checkout, and I heard her call out from the kitchen, "Hey, did you change something with the card? It's not going through for some reason." I didn't even look up from my laptop. "Yeah," I said casually. "I stopped paying for household stuff. You've got 2 adults living here now. Time for some independence." She blinked a few times, clearly not expecting that tone from me. What's that supposed to mean exactly? It means, I said, finally looking up and making direct eye contact. I'm done sponsoring people who treat me like furniture. Like I'm just part of the house that doesn't need acknowledgement. She opened her mouth to argue back, but nothing actually came out. I could literally see the gears turning in her head. She wanted to yell at me, wanted to guilt trip me, but somewhere deep down she knew she didn't have a leg to stand on in this argument. For the next few days, the atmosphere in the house was weirdly quiet and tense. No more casual small talk during dinner. No more, "Can you transfer me something for gas money?" text throughout the day. I'd go to work, come home, cook my own separate meals, and eat in complete silence. I even started labeling my groceries in the fridge. Not out of pettiness exactly, but because I wanted them both to understand very clearly that the free ride was officially over. About a week later, the first payment reminder email came from the university. I was sitting on the couch reading a book when Jenna saw the notification pop up on her phone. "Oh my God," she muttered, scrolling frantically. "They're saying the payment didn't go through. Did your bank mess something up or have an error?" I didn't even look up from my book. "Weird," I said flatly. "Might want to call them and sort it out." She did call them, right there on speakerphone for the kitchen. The woman from the university finance office confirmed exactly what I already knew. "We currently have no payment scheduled and no authorized payer listed on file for this student at this time." Jenna froze mid-sentence. "But my husband always—" She stopped herself, glanced over at me with this look of dawning realization, and said quickly, "I'll figure it out on my end." Then she hung up. I spent the rest of that afternoon working from home, feeling oddly productive and energized. It's actually amazing how much mental and emotional energy you get back when nobody's actively draining you financially or treating you like an ATM machine. Then came my birthday a few days later. I didn't expect some huge celebration or anything, but at minimum some basic acknowledgement would have been nice. Something. Anything. Nothing. Not a single text message. No card on the table. Not even a casual, "Hey, happy birthday," in passing. Jenna barely managed a good morning before heading out. Mia didn't even make eye contact with me that entire day. But the very next day, the next day, they both suddenly remembered I existed. They cornered me in the kitchen together like it was some kind of planned intervention. Jenna started in with her voice all soft and fake sweet. "Honey," the university called again. They said unless the remaining balance gets paid, Mia won't be allowed to walk at graduation. Mia stood there with her arms crossed defensively. "It's really embarrassing, Dan. Everyone else's parents are paying their bills on time. This makes me look bad." I stared at both of them for a long moment, then smiled calmly. "So, just to make sure I understand this correctly, you both completely forgot about my birthday yesterday. But today you definitely remembered where to find the bank account login information. Is that about right?" Jenna actually rolled her eyes at me. "Don't make this about you right now. This is about Mia's future and her education." I leaned back casually in my chair. Her future is exactly what she made it with her own choices. You both made your choices very clear. I'm just matching that energy now. Complete silence. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator running in the background. Later that evening, I sat outside on the patio with my coffee, watching the sunset. The house behind me was quiet. Inside, I could hear muffled voices. Jenna and Mia frantically panicking about tuition payments, grocery bills, utility costs coming due. All the things I'd been silently handling for a decade. I just sat there listening to the chaos from a comfortable distance, finally feeling at peace. 10 years of being their personal problem solver, their reliable provider, their backup dad when it was convenient. All of that was gone now. And for once in my entire adult life, I didn't feel even a tiny bit guilty about it. I actually felt free. As their stressed voices rose inside the house, I took another slow sip of my coffee and smiled to myself. The financial leash had finally snapped, and they were the ones choking on all that slack they'd taken for granted. It didn't take long at all for the real storm to hit after that. Just 2 days later, I came home from work to find the front door standing wide open. Mia's voice was echoing through the entire house, loud enough that I'm sure the neighbors could hear every word. "You ruined my entire life," she screamed. She was standing right in the middle of the living room clutching her laptop, her face bright red, eyes wet with tears, breathing all shaky like she'd just run a marathon. "Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" she demanded. I set my keys down calmly on the table. "I assume this dramatic scene has something to do with the tuition situation again." She held out her laptop toward me, like it was evidence in a criminal trial. "I can't graduate now. They won't let me walk in the ceremony. I've been planning this for months. Everyone's expecting me to be there. All my friends, all my classmates. I leaned against the wall with my arms crossed. So let me get this absolutely straight. You deliberately cut me out of your graduation ceremony. You erased my name completely. You replaced me with Brian, the guy who couldn't even afford to pay for your textbooks. And now you're genuinely shocked that your free ride suddenly ended? That's what we're dealing with here. Don't twist this around, she yelled, her voice cracking with emotion. You knew how important this was to me. You knew. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I did know. That's exactly why I paid for every single class up until now. Thousands and thousands of dollars. But apparently I'm only valuable for that specific purpose, right? Just a wallet. That's when Jenna finally spoke up. I hadn't even noticed her sitting quietly on the couch until that moment. Okay, that's enough from both of you, she snapped, standing up. You're being incredibly cruel, Dan. This is her big moment. Her graduation. You're acting out of pure spite. I turned to face her directly, keeping my tone ice cold and controlled. Spite? Is that what we're calling boundaries now? You two have been using me for 10 solid years. I pay for absolutely everything. In the very moment it's time to actually show some appreciation or basic respect, I get erased from the picture entirely like I never existed. Jenna scoffed and folded her arms defensively. You're being completely ridiculous about this. She just wanted her real father there at graduation. You should have understood that and been mature about it. Funny, I said with a slight smile that didn't reach my eyes. I'm petty and ridiculous now, but I was perfectly useful when I was paying all the bills. That's real convenient timing. Mia's voice trembled as she spoke. You don't understand anything. Everyone's going to think I'm a complete failure now. I can't just not graduate. I can't face people. Then maybe you should call Brian, I suggested calmly. He's the hero in this story, remember? Maybe he can show up for once with more than just a smile and a half-empty wallet. That comment made her snap completely. She slammed her laptop shut hard and pointed an accusing finger directly at me. You're pathetic. You know that. You're just jealous of him because he's my real dad and you never will be. That one actually made me laugh. A small, bitter laugh that seemed to make her even angrier. You're absolutely right, Mia. He is your real dad. And when real bills show up in your mailbox, he can deal with those too. See how it works out for you both. Jenna slammed her hand down hard on the table. Enough, Dan. You're not just hurting Mia with this childish behavior. You're actively destroying this entire family. I looked her straight in the eye without blinking. What family exactly? The one I've been funding entirely while you sat at home and made excuses for her behavior? The one that systematically cut me out of everything I personally built? Is it the family you're referring to? She opened her mouth, but no words came out. For the first time maybe ever, I saw her face actually fall. Like she was finally realizing this wasn't just another one of our usual arguments that she could smooth over later with apologies and promises. I walked over to the kitchen counter where I'd left a folder earlier, picked it up, and dropped it onto the table in front of them. You're right about one thing though, Jenna, I said quietly. I'm done destroying this family. That's exactly why I already talked to a lawyer about all of this. Her face went completely pale. What are you talking about? Divorce papers, I said plainly, without emotion. I'm filing this week. You and Mia need to start looking for somewhere else to live. I'm formally asking you both to move out. My lawyer will handle all the occupancy details and timelines. Mia's jaw literally dropped open. You're kicking us out? Seriously? No, I said, picking up my keys again. I'm giving you both a real chance to live those independent lives you seem to think you already have. You don't actually need me, remember? You made that abundantly clear. Jenna stepped forward with panic in her eyes. Dan, don't do this. Please. You're overreacting to everything. We can fix this situation. We can work it out. Overreacting? I let out a short laugh. You erased me from her graduation after 10 years. Jenna, you actively defended her when she called me jealous. You let her treat me like I'm nothing but a walking checkbook. Tell me exactly what part of that is fixable. Her lip started trembling. You can't just throw us away like garbage after everything. I looked at her calmly and steadily. I'm not throwing you away. I'm just completely done paying rent for people who never paid me even basic respect in return. Total silence filled the entire room. Mia stood there frozen. Jenna's eyes started watering up. And for once in a very long time, I didn't feel bad about any of it. Not even a little bit. I picked up my keys from the table. You'll get official legal notice soon. But as far as I'm concerned right now, this house runs on respect. And right now you're both completely out of credit. Mia muttered something under her breath. You're going to regret this decision. I paused at the doorway, glanced back at her one last time, and said clearly, No, Mia. I've been regretting staying this long. That's the actual truth. Then I walked out. I sat in my car in the driveway for several minutes before actually driving anywhere. My hands were perfectly steady on the steering wheel. My chest felt lighter than it had in years. For an entire decade, I've been keeping everything running smoothly while getting treated like a temporary placeholder. That ended today, permanently. Later that night, Jenna sent me a long text message trying to play nice, saying I was just being emotional, that we could definitely talk this out reasonably if I just calm down and come back. I didn't reply. I just turned off my phone completely and went to bed early for once. The next morning, I woke up early, made fresh coffee, and looked around my kitchen. Half the fridge was empty. The pantry was nearly bare. The light was still on because I hadn't bothered to turn off the utilities yet. But despite all that, the house felt fundamentally different. It finally felt like mine again, instead of like some hotel I was funding for ungrateful strangers. I leaned against the counter and muttered quietly to myself, "This house runs on respect now, not entitlement." And for the first time in years, it actually did. The next few days were eerily quiet. Way too quiet. Jenna and Mia walked around the house like ghosts, whispering to each other in corners, occasionally slamming doors, but never directly talking to me about anything. It was obvious they were hoping I'd cave first, that I'd feel guilty and take it all back like I always had before. I didn't. Not this time. By day 3, the silence finally cracked. Jenna cornered me in the kitchen early one morning, holding her phone like it was some kind of weapon. "Dan," she said, her voice shaking but trying to sound controlled. "Mia talked to the school again yesterday. If we don't pay the balance by next week, she legitimately won't be able to graduate. Can you please just fix this for her? Just this one last time?" I didn't even look up for my coffee. "You mean the ceremony where I wasn't invited to attend?" "Yeah, that situation doesn't concern me anymore." Jenna's frown deepened, her tone turning more desperate. "You've always been the adult in every situation, the responsible one. Don't do this to her now." "Then maybe Brian shouldn't have played dad if he couldn't actually pay dad prices," I interrupted calmly, finally looking her directly in the eye. "I'm done being the backup wallet that funds everyone's dreams." That's when Jenna tried one last guilt trip on me. "Dan, you raised her. You love her. Doesn't that mean something to you?" I stood up slowly from the table. "Yeah, it means I wasted 10 years thinking love was the same thing as respect. Big difference." Mia must have been listening from the hallway because she suddenly stormed out, muttering something angry about how I'd regret this forever. The front door slammed so hard it rattled all the windows in their frames. The next morning, my doorbell rang at 8 a.m. I opened it to find Brian standing there on my porch. The hero, dad himself, wearing cheap cologne and an even cheaper expression on his face. "Hey man," he started, pretending to sound friendly and casual. "Can we talk for a minute?" I leaned against the doorframe. "About what exactly?" "Your overdue bills." He sighed dramatically like I was being difficult. "Look, I heard what's been going on here. Jenna and Mia are completely wrecked over this. I get that you're mad about some things, but come on. You can't just leave them stranded like this." I smiled slightly. "Sure I can. Watch me do exactly that." He frowned, trying to look stern. "You're better than this kind of behavior." "No, Brian," I said clearly. "I was better than this for 10 straight years. You were the guy who showed up twice a year and got treated like Superman, while I paid every single dime for everything. Now you're here because you finally realized being dad actually comes with an invoice attached." His voice got noticeably louder. "You think you're some kind of hero? You're just bitter and petty." I laughed out loud. "You're right. I am bitter. Bitter that I spent years paying for your kid's entire future while you played catch-up on your Father of the Year visits twice annually." That comment hit a nerve. He stepped closer and jabbed his finger toward my chest. "You think you could talk to me like that?" "Yeah," I said completely deadpan. "I just did, and I'll do it again." He shoved me hard. Pure reflex kicked in immediately. I pushed back, and he stumbled backwards into the porch railing. "Try that again," I warned him. "Go ahead." He looked like he actually might, but I was faster. I pulled out my phone and started dialing. "You want to play tough guy, Brian? I'll let the cops handle your little dad meltdown for you." That sobered him up real quick. He backed off, muttering curses under his breath as he walked down my driveway. "You'll regret this, man. Already regretted ever meeting you." I called after him, then shut the door. I stood there for a moment, just breathing steadily. No shaking, no guilt, just pure relief. 10 years ago, I would have apologized for defending myself. Now I was completely done apologizing for having a spine. That night, Jenna came home looking pale and tight-lipped. She must have already heard from Brian about what happened because she didn't even say hello. She walked straight to the table, dropped a white envelope in front of me, and said flatly, "You really filed the papers?" I looked at the divorce documents she was holding, the copies my lawyer had officially sent. "Yep," I said. "You want a proof?" "There it is." Her voice cracked slightly. "You're throwing away everything we built." "No," I said quietly but firmly. "You did that when you let your daughter treat me like a stranger. When you defended her every single time." For just a second, her expression softened like maybe she was about to apologize, but then she straightened up, looked at me coldly, and said, "You're heartless." I nodded slowly. "Heartless? Maybe. Broke? Not anymore." She turned and went upstairs without another word. I heard drawers slamming, closet doors opening and closing, the harsh sound of suitcase zipper. By the next morning, half the house looked completely empty. Mia came down last, glaring at me like she wanted to set me on fire with her eyes. "You could have just helped us," she hissed through clenched teeth. "And you could have just respected me," I said evenly. "Guess we both learned something valuable here. No jitting, no more guilt trips, no forced smiles, just quiet acceptance." I made myself breakfast, sat down at the table, and realized something profound. I hadn't had a peaceful morning meal in over a decade. Every single breakfast before this had been interrupted by requests, complaints, or some kind of emotional performance designed to manipulate me. Now, there was just silence. Clean, honest silence. I finished eating, stood up, and looked around the house. Still messy in places, still half empty from their packing, but undeniably mine. For the first time in years, it wasn't a painful reminder of what I'd lost. It was proof of what I'd finally taken back. Control over my own life. And yet it was peace. Real peace. The kind that comes after surviving a storm you should have walked away from years earlier. For a few weeks after that, life was genuinely quiet. I actually thought it was over, that they'd moved on and I could just rebuild my life in peace. But apparently Jenna and Mia weren't quite done with their drama yet. The first sign that something was happening came from my coworker Jerry. He stopped by my desk one morning looking uncomfortable and hesitant. "Hey man, everything okay at home?" he asked carefully. "Best it's ever been," I said, taking a sip of my coffee. He scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. "That's weird. Someone mentioned you walked out on your family or something. Something about leaving your stepdaughter just one semester short of graduation." I stared at him for a long moment. "Oh, they're doing that now. That's cute." Turns out Jenna and Mia had been on a full-blown sympathy tour. They were telling anyone who would listen that I had cruelly abandoned them and left poor Mia just one payment away from her diploma. Apparently Jenna had even cried to several mutual friends, saying I'd turned cruel and heartless after all she'd sacrificed for our relationship. The story was dramatic enough to get people talking and sharing. By day 2, my phone was constantly blowing up with texts. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years, old friends, even my cousin's wife asking what had actually happened. But the real surprise came that evening when my brother Mark called. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he said before I could even say hello. I sighed and leaned back in my chair. "Good to hear from you too, Mark." "Don't start with me," he snapped. "Mom's been hearing all kinds of stuff. Jenna's saying you threw her and her kid out with nothing after paying for half her college degree. Is any of that true?" She conveniently left out a few important details, I said calmly. Like the part where they completely erased me from the graduation I'd been funding for years. Mark paused. "Wait, what? What are you talking about?" So I told him everything. How I'd paid every single dime for Mia's school, car, bills, everything. How she deliberately replaced me with her deadbeat father for her graduation ceremony. How Jenna had defended that decision every step of the way. How I'd finally pulled the plug after an entire decade of being treated like background noise in my own house. When I finished, the line went silent for a solid minute. Then Mark exhaled heavily. "You're completely serious about all this?" "100% serious." "Holy crap," he muttered. "They made it sound like you just randomly snapped for no reason at all." I chuckled bitterly. "Yeah, that's their specialty. Conveniently leaving out the part where they caused the entire problem." He promised to call her mom and straighten things out with her. I didn't think much of it until about an hour later when Mom called me directly. I was expecting her usual passive, diplomatic tone. Instead, she was absolutely fuming. "Daniel, I just heard everything from your brother," she said, her voice sharp and angry. "That woman lied straight to my face about what happened." "Yeah," I said dryly. "She's had a lot of practice doing that." "I'll handle this," Mom said firmly. "You've done more than enough for them. Let them figure life out without your money for once." Then she hung up like she was about to start a war on Facebook. And oh boy, did she ever. By the next day, the entire story had flipped completely. Mom had called a few relatives who called others who started posting their own opinions online. The truth was spreading faster than their lies had. Over the next couple weeks, Jenna's whole "poor me" act completely unraveled in public. One of Mia's old high school teachers actually commented under her sob story post, "Funny how you forgot to thank the man who paid for your entire education." Someone else added, "Didn't your real dad disappear for half your childhood?" It snowballed from there really quickly. The comments just kept piling up relentlessly. Friends who used to constantly praise Mia for being so driven and ambitious started calling her spoiled and entitled. People began pointing out that Jenna hadn't actually worked in years while playing the victim. Even better, the story reached Mia's university social circle. A few of her classmates heard what really happened and started whispering about it on their private student pages. Words like entitled, ungrateful, and fake got thrown around. Her carefully constructed image was tanking faster than her GPA ever could. Meanwhile, I kept completely quiet through all of it. I didn't post anything on social media, didn't reply to messages asking for my side, didn't publicly defend myself at all. The truth was doing all the work for me, without any effort on my part. Then one night, about 2 weeks after everything exploded online, I got a call from an unknown number. Normally, I'd just ignore those, but something told me to answer this one. "Hello." A woman's voice came through, calm but noticeably nervous. "Is this Dan?" "Yeah." "Who's this?" There was a brief pause. "You don't know me, but I'm Brian's sister. I think you deserve to know the actual truth about what's been happening." I sat up straight immediately. "Brian's sister?" "Yes. I've been watching all this play out online, and it's not right. My brother's an absolute idiot, but Jenna's even worse than he is. She was actively planning to leave you." I stayed quiet, letting her continue without interruption. "She told Brian directly that once Mia graduated, she was completely done with you. She said you'd served your purpose, paid for school, kept them comfortable financially, and then she was planning to reconnect with Brian permanently. They were already talking seriously about moving in together again. She just wanted to wait until Mia finished school so it wouldn't look suspicious or mess up the tuition payments." For a few seconds, I genuinely didn't know what to say. "You're absolutely sure about this?" "She said it directly to me," the woman replied, sounding disgusted. "I told her she was using you, and she just laughed about it. Said you were too nice to ever realize what was happening." I leaned back in my chair, staring up at the ceiling. Everything suddenly clicked into place. All the weird silences, the sudden coldness, the fake smiles whenever I talked about graduation plans. It had all been part of their exit strategy. Jenna had never planned to stay with me long term. She just needed me to finish paying her daughter's way out first. The caller continued, her voice softer now. "I don't know if this helps you at all, but I wanted you to hear it from someone who isn't on their side of this mess." "It helps," I said quietly. "Thank you for telling me." A few minutes later, she texted me screenshots of conversations as proof, just so I'd have documentation. When I hung up, I just sat there for a long time processing everything. All that effort over 10 years. All that loyalty, money, time, emotional energy. And it had all been leading to this planned betrayal. But here's the funny part that made me actually laugh out loud. They'd completely played themselves. Their entire plan fell apart before it ever got a finish. The graduation was gone. The tuition money was gone. The public sympathy was gone too. Everything they'd been working toward had collapsed. I stood up, looked around my quiet, clean, peaceful house, and actually laughed. It wasn't bitter anger anymore. It was pure relief. For once in my entire adult life, I wasn't paying for someone else's future. I was finally living my own. And as I locked my phone and walked outside onto the patio, I thought to myself, I'm not angry anymore. Just grateful I found out in time. But peace never lasts long when lies are still floating around out there. The smear campaign was still actively spreading online. Twisted stories, strategic half-truths, screenshots taken completely out of context. Jenna and Mia were doubling down hard, playing victims to absolutely anyone who would listen. Normally, I would have just ignored all of it and moved on. But this time felt different. They wanted to drag my name through the mud publicly. Fine. I'd give everyone the complete truth instead. Loud, clear, and absolutely undeniable. So one Friday night, I sat down at my desk with my laptop, opened a new post, and started typing. I didn't rant or throw insults around. I wrote it like a detailed report. Calm, factual, every single claim backed up with solid proof. I included clear screenshots of tuition payments, car repair receipts, grocery bills, utility payments. Even the official emails from Mia's school showing she'd listed only Jenna and Brian for the graduation ceremony seating. I explained methodically how I'd raised her, paid her way through school, and then got completely erased from her public thank you speech. Then came the real twist that they definitely didn't see coming. I attached screenshots of those messages from Brian's sister, showing their detailed plan to reunite after I'd finished paying for everything. Her exact words were right there in black and white. Jenna said once Mia graduates, she's done with you. She and Brian were already talking about moving in together. She just wanted to wait. I didn't need to exaggerate anything or add drama. The plain truth was cruel enough on its own. I ended the entire post with just one simple line: I didn't abandon anyone. I stopped paying to be disrespected. Then I hit post and closed the laptop. Made myself coffee, turned on the TV, tried to just relax. But within an hour, my phone started buzzing nonstop. Notifications, messages, calls, everything coming in at once. By the next morning, that post had spread absolutely everywhere. Friends, relatives, co-workers, even old classmates from years ago were sharing it widely. The reaction was immediate and brutal. People were genuinely horrified at how much I'd paid over those 10 years. Every bill, every tuition payment, every expense, all laid out clearly. Others couldn't believe how easily I'd been replaced and erased after everything. Comments poured in constantly. She used you. You're better off without them. That girl's not ready for law school. She's ready for court. It snowballed incredibly fast. By the end of that day, the post had thousands of views and shares. Jenna's social media accounts went private within hours. Mia tried to defend herself initially, posting some vague quote about bitter people twisting stories, but it backfired immediately and badly. People started digging through her old posts, found that thanks to the best dad ever photo with Brian, and began calling her out directly in the comments. You mean the dad who didn't pay a single dime? Girl, he wasn't even around when you were 10 years old. The internet can be incredibly cruel, but for once it was actually on my side. Within just a few days, everything started completely crumbling for both of them. Jenna's friends, mostly other moms she gossiped with regularly, stopped replying to her messages entirely. A few of them even left public comments under her old posts saying they'd had no idea what kind of person she really was. Mia, meanwhile, didn't even get to graduate. The university barred her from walking in the ceremony or being officially recognized because the tuition balance still wasn't cleared. Her name wasn't printed in the program, and she didn't receive the diploma either. She and Jenna tried desperately to negotiate with the school administration, but policy was policy. No payment, no graduation ceremony, no degree. She ended up taking multiple part-time jobs just to survive. Cashier at some clothing shop during the day. Barista at a coffee place in the evenings. Every time someone recognized her name, she'd get that awkward stare and uncomfortable silence. Her best dad ever, Brian, he disappeared again predictably, leaving her and Jenna to fend for themselves completely. And the cherry on top of everything? A neighbor told me Jenna had been trying to move in with her sister, but her sister flat out refused. Said she didn't want that kind of drama under her roof. I didn't gloat about any of it. Didn't send petty texts. Didn't even bother blocking them. I just watched from comfortable distance, quietly. The world was doing all the work for me without any effort on my part. Jenna and Mia had spent years pretending I didn't exist in their lives. Now the entire community knew exactly who I really was. The man who gave everything and got systematically erased in return. And as for them, they were finally living in the shadow they'd created for themselves. No degree, no supportive friends, no backup plan. Just silence and consequences. I closed my laptop one final time, leaned back in my chair, and took a deep breath. For once there was no bitterness left inside me. Just quiet satisfaction. Because sometimes revenge doesn't need yelling or fighting or dramatic confrontations. It just needs facts and perfect timing. I looked around my quiet, peaceful home. The one I'd rebuilt piece by piece after surviving that storm. And I smiled genuinely. They spent years pretending I didn't exist, I said quietly to myself. Now everyone sees them for exactly who they really are. And the absolute best part? I didn't have to spend a single dollar to make any of it happen. The truth did all the heavy lifting for free.
Alright, I'm out, but the next story is already on the way.